Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 6. Here we will explain the result of our TPCASTT analysis of the poem titled Poetry by Joseph O. Legaspi.
Title is the first thing we need to discuss before diving into our analysis. Let's take a look into the title first. Before we begin reading the poem, we made an assumption of what the poem are going to be about. And based on the title, which is poetry, we made a prediction that it might be something related to poetry, such as how it was created or how it flows, or even use something as metaphor for poetry. Now let's get into the poem, shall we? Poetry by Joseph O. Legaspi. Every morning, I pull up the blinds, letting in the trees into the study. Their seasonal shadows first hover. They blend into the subconsciousness. They speak to the desk assembled into a four-legged beast yet remains, kin in their kingdom of wilderness. They conjure up each other at night. Now that we know what the poem is, here we paraphrase the whole poem into our own language, one that hopefully can be understood easily. Each morning, I raise the blinds, allowing the view of the trees into the study. Their images firstly appear in a season, then combine into a part of a mind without conscious. Their shadows align together with the desk, forming and becoming a beast with four legs, but it's not moving. Become part of a kin in their wilderness kingdom. They juggle with each other as night falls.
Let's talk about connotation. What is connotation? When you're reading a poem out loud, you may notice a sort of sing-song quality to it, like a rhyme. This is accomplished by the use of rhythm. There are the types of rhythms that being used in our poem like trochaic, iambic, anapaetic, and dactylic. For the connotation of the first line, every morning I pull up the blinds. The sentence consists of four trochaic. Trochaic consists of stress and unstressed. Like every word, the E word is emphasized than very word, and for the morning, the more word is emphasized than ning word. For the second line, letting in the trees into the study. The sentence consists of two dactylic, one iambic, and one trochaic. Dactylic consists of stress, unstressed, unstressed. Like letting in the let word is emphasized than ting and in word. And for iambic consists of unstressed and stressed. Like the trees, the word is emphasized than trees word.
The next line is their seasonal shadows first over. It shows that in the word seasonal is dactylic, which is there is a stress and also unstressed twice. And also the word shadows, which is trochaic, because it shows that there is a stress and unstress. And then the next line is then blend into subconsciousness. It shows that there's one rhythm located there, which is in the word consciousness only. And it's called dactylic, since it has a stress and also two unstresses.
Here on line 5, we could see that the beginning, they speak, could be categorized as iambic. To the desk is categorized as anapaetic type, while assembled can be categorized as both trochaic and iambic. For line 6, we can see that it starts with trochaic and continues with iambic, trochaic, and ends with anapaetic.
In sentence kin in their kingdom of wilderness, there are some rhythm in this sentence, like trochaic and dactylic. Archaic has a pattern stressed and unstressed, while dactylic has a pattern stressed, unstressed, and unstressed. In the last sentence, they conjure up each other at night. We have iambic, anaplastic, and trochaic rhythms. Iambic pattern is unstressed and stressed. Anaplastic is unstressed, unstressed, and stressed, while trochaic is stressed and unstressed.
Now, let's enter the topic of meter. Firstly, we need to ask ourselves, what exactly is a meter and what does it have anything to do with poetry? Well, meter is the length of a line of poetry, based on what type of rhythm it used. Each set of syllables is 1 foot, and each line is measured by how many feet are in it. The length of the line of poetry is then labeled according to how many feet are in it. There are many types of meters, and for this one, we'll only be discussing about the types that we found in the poem. First of all, there's monometer. There's a length of poem that stands alone, which we could find in line 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7. And then there's dimeter, which is a length of 2 words or syllables. You can find later on line 1 and 3 to 7. The next one is trimeter. This one have a length of 3 words or syllables within a line, which you can find on line 2, 7, and 8. Terameter consists of 4 words or syllables as a length that we found on line 2, 6, and 8. While pentameter is a length of 5 words or syllables, which I can only found on the first line.
For the meter in first line, every morning I pull up the blinds. The sentence consists of dimeter and pentameter. Every morning is dimeter and I pull up the blind is pentameter. Second line, letting in the trees into the study. The sentence consists of tetrameter and trimeter. Letting in the trees is tentameter and into the study is trimeter.
And now the third line is their seasonal shadows first hover. We can see that there are 2 meters, which is between the word there and seasonal, also shadows and first. There is monometer, seasonal shadows is dimeter, as well as first hover, which is dimeter too. And for the next one, then blend into subconsciousness. There are also 2 meters displayed there. Then blend is a dimeter, into is monometer, and subconsciousness is a monometer as well.
On line 5, there are 3 types of meters on the line. They speak to the desk, assembled. As we can all notice, they speak is categorized as dimeter. To the desk is a trimeter, while assembled is a monometer. For line 6, yet again, there are 3 types. Into a 4-legged beast, yet remains. The first one being a tetrameter, the second one being a monometer, and the last one being a dimeter.
In sentence in their kingdom of wilderness, there are some meter in this sentence, like kin is categorized as monometer, in their kingdom is categorized as trimeter, and of wilderness is categorized as dimeter. While in the last sentence, they conjure up each other at night has a trimeter and tetrameter as well.
For the figurative language, for the first line, every morning I pull up the blinds. Pull up the blinds is metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that implicitly compresses 2 unrelated things, like pull up and the blinds. For the second line, letting in the trees into the study. Into the study is personification. It makes it seem as if an inanimate object can do something like a human does.
Okay, the next line is their seasonal shadows first hover. Firstly, there's an alteration which is at the word seasonal shadows. There are repetitions there, which are the S's. Seasonal shadows. And then there's also a hyperbole, the blue one, which is the seasonal shadows for October. It shows that the sentence is an exaggeration for the sake of emphasis, which is just too much for a sentence. Why do the seasonal shadows have to fly around in the air when is it just shadows? And then the fourth line is then blend into subconsciousness. This line is imagery because the reader can imagine that those shadows, which is mentioned in the previous line, they are blending into one, then entering the other's subconsciousness, or we can call it as his mind, his brain, is pondering as well.
For line 5, they speak to the desk are categorized as personification because it seems to be talking about the light that went into the study room. A light obviously cannot speak, therefore, it personified as if the light was a person who could talk. Within that line, there are also rhymes and alliterations. The rhymes are located on speak and desk, both ending with the same pronunciation of k, while the alliteration are spotted on d, to, and the other d, for having the same letter or pronunciation of t. While for line 6, into a four-legged beast, yet remains, have an imaginary because we could somehow picture a beast-looking creature with 4 legs. In that line, there's also hyperbole on into four-legged beast because it was describing a shadow of a desk. It exaggerated the description of the shadow. There's also a rhyme in that line on the word four-legged, which rhymes with the previous word of assembled.
The kingdom of wilderness is included in imagery because the reader or listener can imagine a specific place or setting with strong sensory details. For example, the word kingdom creates the impression of an area that has certain rules, while the word wilderness refers to the wild, which is often associated with freedom. So, from the combination of these two words, we can deduce a contrasting image between order and disorder, between power and the wild. And also, there is alliteration in there, the K in the word kin and the K in the word kingdom. Then, in the last time, we have a word conjure up. The conjure up in here is a personification. Why is personification? Because it gives human action to something that may not be human.
And for the attitude for the first sign, every morning I pull up the blinds. The tone is calm and the mood is relaxed. Opening windows in the morning is usually associated with natural lights and fresh start, giving a positive and relaxing impression. For the second line, letting in the trees into the study, the tone is relaxed and the mood is calm. Letting trees into a study space creates the feeling of being in calm and inspiring place.
Okay, now the next line is their seasonal shadows for Sober. The tone is from the author is atmospheric because he can also feel the way those shadows are flying around in the air near the author himself. And the mood is whimsical because when I read this line, I can feel the strange vibe from the line where the shadows are hovering for the first time from character's mind. Why does it hover? And then the next line is then blend into subconsciousness. The tone is relaxed since the author himself is also pondering in a relaxing way where the shadows are trying to blend into his brain. And the mood is, when I read this line, I can see how dreamy it is since it tells about the minds are all blending into one, into our subconsciousness, where we can also ponder into our minds.
For line 5, they speak to the desk, assemble. The tone it represents is basically nervous because, well, it's giving off creepy vibe. For the mood, as I read this line, it's give an eerie or weird kind of vibe with the shadow speaking to the desk. In a way, it casts a shadow, which is ominous. And for line 6, into a four-legged beast, yet remains. The tone is quite fearful. While the mood is, when I read this, I was scared at the choice of words that is formed into a beast looking with 4 legs just standing there. Which is scared because, come on, 4-legged beasts would be scary if you saw one.
The sentient kin in their kingdom of wilderness have a compassionate tone. Why? Because the word kin reflects a close relationship between individuals who support each other, while the word kingdom in wilderness indicates that although they are in a challenging wilderness, they have a place that they consider to be their own. They suggest the existence of a community or family that tries to survive together, even in difficult environments. The combination of these two elements creates a sense of tenderness and care amidst the challenges, giving the impression of being compassionate. While mood in here is serene, because when I read this, it describes a calm and peaceful atmosphere. The word kin points toward a close and harmonious family relationship. The last sentence is they conjure up each other at night is using Arabic tone, because the word conjure up are often associated with something magical or extraordinary, creating the impression that they invoke each other in an unusual or magical way. This can evoke feelings of ecstasy or unusual happiness, as if their meeting on the night was a special and unexpected moment, creating an atmosphere that can be considered full of deep happiness or erotic, while mood in here is mystical. Why? Because the word conjure suggests a magical or supernatural quality. Let's talk about shift. Based on the poetry, there's a change tone in the lines. In line 1 until 2 are given that relaxing kind of tone, or which are still peaceful and quiet. Meanwhile, in line 3 until 8, they are all changed into eerie kind of vibe, since it shows that it mentions a lot of shadows and some kind of peace at night mentioned by the author. So after we analyze this poem, we have 2 titles in here, before analyze and after analyze. Title before analyze, as based on our first prediction, we predicted that the poetry is about poetry in a context where it's related to literature world.
So for after our observation, it turns out that the poetry is about the author's daily life, where it is peaceful and relaxing at first, and it turns out his mood is actually gloomy, since something always making a fuss in his mind, which is shown at the word the seasonal shadows are firstly hovering in the line 3, where they are trying to blend into his mind, which makes him like being messy and fussy in his brain. And now the last part is the theme. So, what's the whole poem was about? The poem is about interconnection, where the author talks about the interconnection between the nature that he sees and his fussy and gloomy mind. It shows that at line 1 and 2, where he's first facing nature or the reality, until when it comes to line 3 until the end, where he starts to think about something not exist in his subconsciousness, or we can call it his mind or his brain.
Thank you for watching. We hope our explanation can add insight to the audience. Feel free to check out our posters on the Instagram account that we had listed. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.